Welcome to the Crafty Mini, and this is the last episode in the alien bust. So starting off, you can see here there's some yellow areas, and that's the milliputs that I've put on to just balance out the head because it was slightly bumpier on the one side, smooth out the neck and sort out that crack that had formed across the bottom of the neck from the Fimo, and just accentuate some of the details on top. So starting with this, we're going to give it a base coat of light sand by Vallejo all over, quite and simple, just a thin coat to start with, and then because we can always build up layers on this afterwards. But just get this brushed on all over, and this will be the lightest skin tone on the actual bust when it's done. Now going in with a makeup sponge, because I find it smudges a lot easier, is getting some red. This is Scarlet by Vallejo, and this is being applied on top of the wet base coat. And this, as you can see, it's smudging and blending. It's coming up with this sort of salmony pink colour. Now what I'm doing is I'm building a rough sort of outline with this around the crest of the head and down the back of the neck, and you'll see why in a moment when we come to wet blending. So this is just building up an outline for me to work from, and then if I need to, I'll go back in with a bit of the white colour later. So now with the brush, you can see now I'm actually blending where the two colours have actually met. Going in with a wet brush with a watered down paint, and then using my finger to sort of blend it in, and going back and forth with the two colours. So the transition from the light sand into the scarlet, it's actually quite a gradiated effect. And then I'll actually enhance these colours later on, as you'll see. But I'm going back in with a bit of a blend of both, going back in with the white, back in with the red, and so forth, and just starting to pick out details now of where I want the main colours to be. And this is to give it a more natural sort of skin tone and texture when you see the final product. So I messed around quite a bit with around the eye sort of area, how far up did I want the white to be, and in the end I settled for this. So the red, this scarlet comes down sort of just where our nose would be if it was a human. And then the mouth all the way down to the chin is going to be the lighter colour. So now that that's done, I'll start blocking in a heavier coat of the scarlet around the top of the head, and this will be where the extra detail is going to be put on, and it's there to accentuate that transition from the light sand into the scarlet. And then where it meets, I can add a bit of the light sand back in and start blending again and getting the transition to look a bit more natural between the two areas. And you'll see that I go back and forth with the white, and I'm actually painting that on top of where I've just put the red, so it'll mix with the paint and it'll start blending it, because I can always go in with the base colours later and really make those pop. So I'm starting to here, just picking out some details on the ridges around where the lower eyelids would be with the white, and again I'll go back in with the red on top and just keep blending this back and forth. So a lot of steps, but it's worth it in the end, because you get a really nice texture and detail to the actual miniature. Sometimes you'll see me, I'll paint colour on and get a brush that's just damp, no paint on it, and I use that just to smudge it all in together. And again, this steps, it's laborious, it does take a while, but in the finished product it's worth it, and you keep just going back and forth between the two colours until you basically get a nice gradient from the dark red to the white. Right, so now that that's done, I'll still be adding more colours on this later, but I thought, right, we need something to break this up, and I don't just want to do two colours. So we're going to paint like a reptilian sort of spot motif on this. Looking at it now, I realise I've basically done something very similar to Jacquard from Babylon 5, for anyone who's watched it. It's very similar to his sort of headdress. So I'm making random shapes with some Vallejo olive brown and just blocking these out. Being very random, making sure at the front and the sort of top part of the head they'll be the bigger, and then as they go down into the lighter, you'll see the shapes actually become smaller dots, and sometimes I'll even literally just dot the brush. And on the other side, same again, and you can see the pattern starting to form here now. And this is a great way of just breaking up the detail, bringing the two colours together with a third colour that shouldn't really match with either. And you can see there the effect, it's coming out quite nice. And this will be extended all over the back of the head. So this is it finished. It's looking quite good. And then what I do now is I go in with Vallejo German Grey, and this is just to darken the very centre of each of these quote unquote scales. And this is going to make the whole thing pop because it'll make it look a bit darker, and when we accentuate the red later on, it's really going to shine. And I'm just going in not quite up to the edge and just blocking these colours in and out. And this is a really simple technique that you can do for anything, from like I've used it on 40k orcs before for the squigs. Anything that's animalistic, you can use it on dinosaurs, things like that. But it's a really good, it's a really simple technique. And that's all the spots done. Quite happy with those. And now we go in with the scarlet, and I'm just neatening up some of the areas where I've gone over and some of the lines are touching, or the gaps between the spots aren't big enough. And I just take my time going round. Anything towards the top of the head is the scarlet, and then again as we go down towards that light sand, I'll remix the colours and I'll use that to neaten up as well. Now for the actual bottom of the mouth now, so the light sand needed to be a bit brighter so it punches a bit more, in contrast with the dark scales. So I've gone back in with just pure light sand and just brushing this on all over. And you can see here the colour difference from where it's blended to the white that's now going on. And again, this just accentuates all the detail, it makes it punch a bit more when you're looking at it, and it gives more of a gradient between the skin tones. Now for the neck and the sort of shoulders, going in with a dry brush, and you see there I'm popping the paint on, then I'll do circular patterns just to blend it in, and as I get up to the higher part of the neck, I'll sometimes dab a little bit of the red in just to blend it back together so the skin transition's still there. It's a really simple technique, and it just adds loads of character to the piece. And again, like I did on the face, back and forth until I'm happy with the blend. And I'll start at the bottom and work my way up so the paint becomes thinner and drier as it gets up to the top so it doesn't mix too much. Now the eye is very simple. I just did a blob of light blue, dark black spot, and then just UV resin them just so they pop and they have a bit of a dome effect to them. Now because it's a skin, I give the entire miniature, apart from the eyes, a satin varnish, and it just adds to it at the end. It gives it a really nice finish and brings the whole piece together. And all over the miniature, all on the underside, because anywhere the light will reflect onto it, this will all pop at the end. And that's the alien bust done. So we're going to go into some glamour shots now, and a final wrap up. So this is him, or it I should say. Really happy with this, considering I've gone from start to actually making the bust itself right the way through to painting. I'm really happy with this. I've pushed myself a bit more than I normally would. The pattern works really good, something I want to do again with maybe a different sculpture. But yeah, hopefully people have found it really easy to follow as well, because the painting techniques themselves are really basic. It's just wet blending, and it's the pattern work that actually does it. And then because you've got the smaller shapes on the lower lids and just onto the gels, it all adds to the final effect. And these are the final photos, and you can see there the satin varnish. It's just giving that slight reflection, that skin texture. But absolutely really enjoyed painting this. If you've liked it, please leave us a like. Don't forget to comment and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next video, where we're going to be starting something different.